Welcome back, you guys. We've got Kim Bosch from Columbia Gorge Hotel on Localite today. And Kim, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we were, discussing the history in the last segment. And then in the 70s, there was, or maybe it was the late 60s even, there was a transition of the hotel going into like a retirement living center or something. What do you know about that?
It was actually in 1955.
55.
And it had fallen on hard times, and the Friends of Woodcraft purchased the hotel and made it into a retirement community. And it remained a retirement community until the mid-70s.
Until the mid-70s, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, when was the time where it really became sort of famous? I mean, movie stars were coming and stuff. Was that prior to the 50s?
It was. It was shortly after opening, really. It became just internationally known. And at the time, the movie industry was booming in California, and there were a lot of silent actors and actresses that used to frequent the hotel. Rudolph Valentino was one of them, and hence our lounge is called the Valentino Lounge.
That's where that came from. I always wondered where that came from. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Yep. And Clara Bow and Jane Powell and a number of presidents have been at the hotel. Coolidge, Taft, Hoover.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think even Shirley Temple.
Yes, Shirley Temple. Yeah, she's been there numerous times.
Really? Mm-hmm. Now, do you guys have pictures and
we don't
anything
have
documenting that time?
No, not a lot of pictures, unfortunately, over the years.
Yeah.
They've kind of been lost.
Lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Well, jumping back now to the 70s, the hotel changed hands, mm-hmm. and there was a lot of unrest going on in the economy and so forth. Do you know what that time frame was like for the hotel?
The hotel has always had, and hence in the 70s as well, they have a lot of day customers since we're so close to the Portland area, and a lot of our guests come from that area. So they were very busy, and people were excited that they were reopened, but not everyone would stay at the hotel. And it wasn't quite the same, it didn't draw as many dignitaries and that sort of thing as it did in the 20s and 30s. So it relied more on local economies, and it was tough for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of what we're going through now, I mean, dealing
exactly.
with really pulling from our local economy to keep things going. Mm-hmm. Well, the hotel also went through like bankruptcies and a lot of really big challenges, but it actually never ceased operations. Is that correct?
It did for last year, just for a 9-month period.
Okay.
That it actually closed its doors.
Okay.
And then reopened in September of 2009.
During the change in ownership in the 70s, was that when the Graves took it over?
Correct. It was reopened by a gentleman named Paul Frederici, I believe his name is, and he opened it in 1977. Shortly thereafter, the Graves purchased they were a small investor in the hotel. And then in 1982, they bought it outright, and it was in receivership at that point in time. But they, at that point, were the sole owners starting in 1982.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when they purchased it, did they make any upgrades, or did they try to preserve it? Because I'm thinking if it went from a retirement home until like 77 or something, there must have been some changes that occurred to accommodate that use.
There were a lot of changes. They put a lot of time and energy and money into upgrading and renovating and preserving the hotel. It was, I understand, just a institutional green color everywhere when they took over in the late 70s, and so everything had to be repainted and new carpets and just a lot of interior decor had to be done.
And did they try to recall some of the stuff that was from the early days, like kind of bring it back to what it originally was?
Yes, especially with the gardens and that sort of thing. They had a lot of pictures from previous, eras and tried to restore the historicness of it.
The gardens, that was obviously, if it was what we see today, before it became a retirement home. Do you know what happened to it during that time? Was it still kept up like it is?
It was kept up, but not nearly to what, there was a lot of like overgrown blackberry bushes and that sort of thing. I mean, there were still gardens, but they didn't keep, the flowers and that sort of thing. So
okay,
yeah.
Do you know, like, the rock bridges and stuff that are there? Was that all done by the masonry?
Yeah, those are
folks?
original from the Italian stonemasons.
Really?
Yeah.
Really. And we're going to talk more in the third segment about some of the changes that have occurred. And you mentioned that the hotel actually did close to the dismay of many, many people for a short time, but it has reopened under new management, new ownership even, I believe.
Ownership.
And some of the things that have happened, I know there's really interesting and beautiful, with the same type of architecture, condos that have been erected there to I guess it'd be the east side.
Correct.
And so I want to talk a little bit about how that ties into the hotel and all of that. So we'll discuss that when we come back.
Okay.
Everybody, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We've got Kim Bosch from Columbia Gorge Hotel.